I am the Executive Director of Admissions for our 3 professional MBA programs at Anderson. And I'm so excited that you're here with us today. We're kicking off, this is the big kickoff to our recruitment season for the entering class fall of 2026, which we hope a lot of you will be part of. And we really want to thank you for joining today to learn more about the UCLA Anderson Executive MBA program. In the next 75 minutes, you're going to receive an overview of the program joined by our Dean, Jim Adams, who will be sharing that overview with you, followed by a panel of some recent EMBA 2025 grads who are going to share their firsthand experience of how this program transformed them and how they balanced it with work and life and all of those kind of burning questions that I'm sure you are contemplating as you think about embarking on this journey. We will have 2 breaks for Q&A, so definitely get your questions ready. And if you have some burning questions you don't want to forget, please make sure and use the Q&A feature to add those, not the chat. That'll help us make sure we track on that. And then this session will be recorded. So if for some reason you need to hop off before 1:15 Pacific time, we will go ahead and email it after, or you can, of course, share it with your loved ones or your community afterwards as well. So before I introduce Dean Adams, I do want to give a brief overview of Anderson's MBA offering, even though today most of the session will be focused on the EMBA program. So thank you so much, Vanessa, for advancing the slide. So we here at Anderson have multiple MBA programs. These are our kind of 3 primary programs that we have. And all of these programs actually have a lot of similarities. Their core curriculum has a lot of overlap. The faculty we have here at Anderson that you'll learn more about are shared across these programs. And all of our programs offer electives so that you can customize your degree for what is going to be most beneficial for your career and goal outcomes. Ultimately, no matter which of these programs you go through, you graduate with a UCLA Anderson MBA and you join the same global network with all of these programs. The key differences that you're going to notice are whether you're working or going to school full-time, and then where you are in your career. And we are here to help you every step of the way figure out which one of these programs is right for you. I did also want to take a moment, advanced slide. I did want to take a moment, though, to call out our 2 executive MBA programs, because if you're logged on today, you probably fall into this class profile or part in your career where you're mid to senior career level. And so we do have 2 executive MBA programs that could be right for you. One is our UCLA Anderson Executive MBA that's offered on our Westwood campus in Los Angeles. That's the one we'll mainly be speaking about today. But we do also have a global executive MBA. It is a dual degree program in partnership with National University of Singapore, and where upon graduation, you will actually receive 2 MBA degrees, one from each university. And as I said, there's a lot of similarities in the class profile as far as where you are in your career. So just to very quickly highlight for 1 minute, this is some top level information about the UCLA and US Executive MBA program. It truly is a global cohort where about over half of the students are living in Asia, half in North America. And again, you join both networks if this is something, the UCLA and NUS, and has faculty from both programs as well. And it is a 15-month program. And the round deadlines, this program starts in May. So the application deadlines are coming up soon for this one that are listed here. But one of the main differences between the UCLA NUS and the EMBA program is the schedule. So advanced slide. So as you're thinking about, I'm sure one of the things I know many prospective students think about is, how would I fit this into my life? The UCLA Anderson EMBA program does require you to come to campus in Los Angeles every other weekend or once a month. And Dean Adams is going to go into more detail on this. Whereas the UCLA NUS Executive MBA program, it's a more accelerated program. And once a quarter, you are traveling to different global destinations, including the Singapore NUS campus and the Los Angeles UCLA campus, as well as China and India. And you're kind of traveling in these segment type instead of more frequently. So again, this is all stuff that we can go in more depth with you as you try and decide which program may be best for you. We've got a great admissions team here. You see all of us here. Some of you may have already met with us. And this group is here to support you again, to help you figure out which one of these programs is right for you. And there will be more opportunities. This is a virtual event, but there's definitely opportunities to come to campus, sit in on a class, meet with each of us. We're very accessible to you. So now I want to hand over to our main event, Dean Jim Adams. So Dean Jim Adams is coming here. He has actually joined us recently, but he is very familiar with UCLA Anderson. He is a FEMBA 2005 graduate. He's also a double Bruin with his master's in engineering from UCLA. He's coming to us after a 20-plus year career in consulting, most recently from McKinsey. And we are so excited to have him here to share more about the program with you today.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Shannon. Thanks for that. And by the way, maybe a little bit more, glad everybody could join us. Thank you for being here. A little bit more, as you pointed out, I'm an engineer by training. I spent 9 years at Boeing before and during my time at UCLA Anderson, and then graduated and then immediately went into a consulting career. By the way, I'm also coming at you live from Buenos Aires, Argentina, after a red eye here this morning. So if I look a little unshaved, I apologize. That's the reason. But the reason for Argentina is I am here on an IBR, and we will talk about that in a bit. I'll let you know what that is. That is part of the program and one of the required steps. So maybe with that, let's get into it. Next slide, please. All right. One of the things that at Anderson, one of the things we are committed to is you becoming what we call a transformative leader. This is one of the things that excited me about coming back to Anderson from consulting is this framework right here, where we think about by the time you start to the time you finish, you are going to develop all of these skills in the program, in every one of your classes, in your capstone, during the IBRs. These are the things you work on. And the way to think about this flywheel is on the left side of the flywheel, you see the things like strong business acumen, tech savvy, and analytically adept. While on the right side, your let's say your hard skills, and then on the right side of the your analytic skills on the left, and the right side is innovative, collaborative, and inclusive, driven and purposeful. More of your soft skills and your people skills that you're going to use to catalyze actions, change in organizations. So this is going to be central to your entire experience at Anderson, and we're going to come back to that as well. Next slide, please. So if we dive into some of the program details, Shannon touched on this, but this is a 22-month program. We have two schedule options. One, a biweekly, every other week in person, and then a monthly version where you're coming once a month. The beauty about this is what you see below is you're looking at campus and you're actually looking at Royce Hall. Just to the left of Royce Hall, you'll see a cluster of buildings. That is Anderson right back there. And that's where all your classes are. The beauty about this, our program, what I think is very distinctive is you're going to be primarily staying at the Luskin Hotel, which is on campus. It is a campus property. And come Saturday morning, you're just going to stroll up through campus right into the Anderson School, the Anderson Complex. I think that's an amazing experience, and that's one of the key selling points as well. But the two schedule options, biweekly and then the monthly. Next slide, Vanessa. And we'll dive into a little bit more detail on each of these. It has not advanced on my screen yet. There we go. coupled with those schedule options, we do have award-winning faculty. And really, there's 2 points I'll let you read through the titles here. These are just some examples. But the key takeaway here is that UCLA MBA students, and what I mean MBA students, I mean from all of our programs, whether it's a full-time MBA, the EMBA, or the fully employed MBA, they are taught by the same world-class faculty across the board. So you have access to these faculty beyond the classrooms. In many cases, are going to be joining you for lunch, dinner, breakfast, during your time at Anderson. They all balance their teaching with world-class research, and you're going to hear about that throughout. But the point is all of our programs, we don't have a separate night school set of faculty. The faculty are the same across all of our programs, and they are absolutely world-class. So next slide, please. One of the things we're going to do is part of the core learning experience is putting students into study groups. So when you do join, and there is a lot of science behind this and data and analytics, we call it a mini board model. And what we're going to do is put you in groups of 5 and you're not going to be in the same study group throughout your time at Anderson. You're going to be in this study group for 2 quarters. And then at one point, we break it up and put you in another study group for 2 quarters. And then your last 2 quarters, you're going to be yet in a third, and that's when you're going through the capstone. But the point of these is they intentionally resemble a board of directors where you're going to have people from different skills, different backgrounds, bringing different things to the group. And as a result, each member benefits from these complementary areas of expertise. And next slide, and as we advance slides, I will talk. One of the things, you are going to get to know these people, and they will absolutely become some of your best friends in the world. I still remember some of the study groups conversations we had, and I had very recent conversations with friends in the study groups that I had 20 years ago, or 23 years ago to be exact. Your options to tailor your MBA. So there's really 3 points here. One, the core set of classes that you take, and you see these core classes. These are absolutely the same core classes that you're going to take in FEMBA, EMBA, as well as in the full-time program. These leadership foundations all the way down through micro and macroeconomics. Then there's a set of electives that you're going to take, and you're going to be able to tailor your electives based on your interest, your schedule availability, and and professors that just spark an interest as well. And then finally, specializations. We do offer specializations, and these are not quite certificate programs, but they're like, hey, I'm really interested in leadership or global management or finance or marketing. You could actually gear your MBA towards those specializations. And you'll notice down on the bottom, some of these specializations do require a little asterisk on those. It doesn't mean that they're not open to EMBA students. They are just going to require some more schedule flexibility, and as opposed to just coming on the weekends. You may have to do a Wednesday night class or potentially even a Saturday morning class with the FEMBA as a shared elective. But these are the specializations that are listed, and some of the most popular ones are up top and that are available. And next slide, and we could keep talking through these as well. But you could absolutely tailor your experience at Anderson, through the electives, through the specializations, and through many of the club options as well, that are geared towards career affinity groups or many other things. And here we go. In addition to that, there's a capstone thesis, and this is an academic thesis. This is in lieu of that, but there's really 3 options for the capstone. Most of people that take the program go through the EMBA program are going to go through the SMR, the Strategic Management Research. And what that is, you're going to actually solve a real world business problem where we bring in companies who hire 5-person teams of EMBAs for a 6-month period to solve a real world problem for them. And that could be anywhere from, hey, I'm interested in expanding into a new market. It could be, hey, I'm looking at consolidating my business and I want an analysis of the business. Or, a famous one is one that was done in the 80s by an EMBA team, was done for Hughes Aircraft, which is now Boeing Satellite Systems, but they did one on the commercialization of the satellites technology. And out of that came a few ideas. One of the ideas was Sirius radio or XM radio. And the person went back to Hughes and said, "Hey, I'd love to run with this idea." And they got permission to do it. And that person founded Sirius Radio, which is now Sirius XM. The second one is a business creation capstone. And this is where you're actually going to write a investable or investment grade thesis or business plan, from a business idea, you and your four teammates. You're going to look at the market, the opportunities, write the case for investment, and create a business plan that's investment worthy. And then finally, ETA is what we call entrepreneurship through acquisition. And this is where you're going to develop a business plan to acquire a business. So think of yourself as almost a small private equity play, where you're going to go put the plan together to decide whether or not you want to buy this business. The point is, all capstones, 5-person teams, they all are advised by a faculty advisor and are backed with a research budget to do the market research, the interviews associated with this. And by the way, these are all applying EMBA knowledge in real time. Next slide, Vanessa. And I will say that it is the capstone project that got me interested in consulting. When I started my MBA journey at Anderson 23 years ago, I had full intent on going back to my employer. I went through the capstone and fell in love with the consulting process. And here I am after 20 years, a 20-year career in consulting. I came back to Anderson. So I mentioned that I was in Buenos Aires on an IBR, that is the International Business Residential. This is a requirement for all EMBAs to go on an IBR with your EMBA classmates. So we're doing 4 this year. The 4 this year are in Argentina, Spain, Thailand, and 1 in China. And these are 1-week residentials, and they go beyond. Then we have the global immersions, and I'm going to get into each of these. These are 1-week classes where you're actually going to go in country for a year and learn about something very specific, and these are open to all UCLA Anderson MBA programs. These are optional. These are in lieu of a class or in addition to a class. And then finally, we have international exchanges where we actually you're actually going to go to a different business school for a week and learn with other international students, from all over the world. So if we throw the next slide up really quick, let's look at the IBRs. And these are the IBRs that are spread out over, the last few years. As you can see, the footprint is fairly global, all over the world. Covers just about every continent with the exception of North America, which, we're all fairly familiar with, but South America, you see Europe, South Africa, all over Asia, as well as Australia. And these all have a different flair. So this week, I'll be in Buenos Aires for a few days and also in Mendoza learning about the wine industry and other things as well, very central to the Argentine economy. Next slide. So next slide will show you a map of where we have the global immersions and the timing associated with those. When we looked at this, we did look at the future, what these are going to look like for the next 2 years. So the way to read this is, let's look at Chile on the bottom. The way to read the W26 and the S26 is winter quarter of 2026 and spring quarter of 2026. There'll be a Chile global immersion. But you see, these are also all over the world as well. And these are actually opportunities where you can, learn in country about what's going on and as a class. So if you hit finally one more slide about the global opportunities. Are the exchange programs, and these are actually 1-week exchange programs with very distinguished partner universities around the world. So we have 2 in South America, there's a few in Europe, Asia, as well as Australia. And again, these are immersion programs where you're actually sitting in the business school with other students from not necessarily UCLA, but all over the world and having a great time doing it. And these are for credit as well. Next slide, please. And by the way, my time at Anderson, I'm doing this one here, but when I was a student, I did one also to China as well as Japan. I already touched on this, but I did want to just bring this up very quickly. And I mentioned how this is immersed in all of the thinking at Anderson, all the coursework, and we are very vested in you becoming this transformative leader. So if you hit the next slide, Vanessa, I'll keep talking. And so we're actually thinking about how to build these capabilities, or how our students build these capabilities every step along the way through their journey at Anderson. So one of the things we do is thinking about how leadership is very integral to your experience. You're going to start off on the left here with Leadership Foundations. So you're going to go through 3 different courses here. Leadership Foundations 1, which is Foundations in Inclusive Leadership. And then you see an Ethical Decision Making is 2. And then Transformative Leadership is Leadership Foundations 3. We also have speaking events and electives throughout your time that are all, your choice. The speaking events are typically Friday night. So I'll give you an example. We also have some joint speaking events that we're planning this fall and as well as in the future. So, for instance, this fall we're going to have potentially the CFO from a large entertainment organization coming and talking to both the EMBA as well as the FEMBA classes. And then finally, on the right, you do see that we'll have individualized coaching for you up to 20 plus hours. It's really almost unlimited. It's one-to-one coaching, one-to-one executive coaching with our coaches that are in the EMBA program, Tom and Horatio. They are great. Next slide, and as I'll talk, they also give a few frameworks and tests, personality tests, the Big Five, as well as the SALT. And then, so when you think about Tom and Horatio and that whole career team, what we think about first is, why an MBA? Why are you coming back to Anderson? And so many of you could hopefully see yourselves in one of these boxes. And whether you're a career enhancer, you just want to strengthen your skill set in your current company, and you want to advance in your current company, in your current function, your current role, and you want to just integrate all this knowledge that you've collected over the years, round it out with the education, and then enhance it in place. We have a lot of people, I'd say many of our people are enhancers. Switchers, you're thinking about changing a job function, changing an industry, changing a company, and you want to use the MBA as a pivotal point to do that. By the way, when I started the program, I was an enhancer. I had every intent of going back to my company. During the process, I did explore quite a bit. We'll get into that. And then I ended up switching into consulting. You may see yourself as an entrepreneur. I want to come in to learn the skills necessary to start a business, to buy a business, to own a business, to run a business. So we will teach that along the way. And then many of our students are explorers. Hey, I'm not sure what I want to do. I may be an enhancer. I may want to switch. I may want to start a company, but I'm going to start off being an explorer, and we're going to make your cup overflow with opportunities to learn about different industries, different jobs, hear from speakers. And next slide, and you're going to actually be able to go through that and very much explore that. And our dedicated career development team will help you with that through this one-on-one personalized coaching that I mentioned. So, and by the way, they're not only here to support you in switching or exploring, it's also, how do I network? How do I explore new industries? How do I negotiate a in-company raise or promotion or new position that I'm thinking for? And if I do want to switch, or by the way, many people have lost their jobs at their time during the program. Our career coaches will help you prepare and execute a successful job search. Next slide as I'm talking. And by the way, all this increases your confidence in how you move forward and how you think about this. I also mentioned countless opportunities to learn, lead, and connect. We have 9 academic centers, whether it's the real estate center, the Fink Center for Finance, the technology center, global management. They're all down there. We have 50 clubs and associations. Many of these clubs are affinity clubs. Many of them are career-focused clubs. And what I mean by affinity clubs, it could be anywhere from the ski club to the wine club to, many other things. We have various conferences. I think October 1st, I believe it is, if I don't get the date right, we are having a preview of the Anderson forecast as an example. There's also many other special events such as that, speaking events that you're going to have, and then networking and connections. 44,000 strong is the network, and 44,000 strong plus, that's Anderson, not to mention the UCLA network. By the way, that one of the best things that I didn't preview, everything that you're learning, whether it's the international trips, the capstones, all these speaking events, these are all things that are going to tie it together to actually, for you to bring to your current roles Monday morning and add value immediately. Next slide.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
I think
Dean
that
Adams.
wraps it up. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And now we got through definitely with a few minutes before we jump into our panel. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll try and catch those, or in the Q&A feature below on the bottom of the screen, you can type in questions, but I'll pause if anyone wants to come off. And just so you know, this will be Q&A specifically about maybe any of the program features. However, we will have a follow-on Q&A specifically for the panel.
Yeah, I think there were a few questions in the chat, and I think you've already answered them as well, Shannon, but any others? Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Janae?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Dean Adams. I did have a question for you in regards to choosing the capstone thesis option. Which one did you choose when you were at UCLA, and how has it changed, if any change at all, with incoming classes? How do they choose?
Yeah, good question. So I remember I went through the fully employed MBA program, so it's a little different than the EMBA, and my option was called GAP, Global Access Program. And my specific case was a New Zealand company that was very much interested in expanding their business to the US. So we did a study for them on whether or not that made sense. It's very similar to the SMR option for the executives, the EMBAs. So has it changed much? I'd say it has not changed much. COVID did set it back a bit. You think about international and travel. So we do have, in some cases, a few less international companies and a few more domestic. But the meat and potatoes of the project are really the same. And what they are is they're companies coming to us and saying, "Hey, I have this real problem that I need help with." And I'll give you a few examples for this year on the EMBA side. One company, by the way, an EMBA alum, who's the CEO of this company, has a portfolio of technology projects. And his question was, I have a few killer R&D technology things that I don't know how to monetize. I don't know how to bring to market. I don't know whether or not there's a market for these. I want to hire an EMBA team to go research this. So that EMBA team is going to, hey, here's the technology, the underlying technology. Is there a market for it? Is this could this be its own business? Could we sell this? Could we license this? What is the best way to go to market? And they are executing that now. So in summary, I took the GAP program, which is very similar to the SMR. It has not changed much over the 23 years. It's only got better, and it's still alive and thriving.
And what I will add that has changed, and what I think a lot of students, about 50% of our EMBA students are actually also choosing one of our entrepreneurship options. So the way the school has stayed current is we actually just started offering entrepreneurship through acquisition only a year or two ago because of the interest from the market. So you really do have an opportunity to stay up to date on what's the latest thing. So Thank you for that question. Reza, we'll go to Reza, and then we'll go, I don't know, iPad 3, the next person, and then we probably will move on to the panel and there'll be more time. But Reza, please come with your question.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And I was wondering, maybe this true acquisition program, if you can explain that, what's that? And if this have the part you just said, some companies bring their challenges as a EMBA kind of use case. Can one person become a member of the or EMBA and at the same time also bring his own company challenges as a use cases? Thank you.
Yeah, a great question, Reza. So, and I kind of picked up three questions in there, and let me peel them apart, if I may. The ETA, or enterprise through acquisition, is really you and your team going through and really assessing the viability for buying a business and whether or not you should buy this business and invest in this business and building that business case around that. And that's through actually buying a business, very much a private equity model, if you think about it. Although, as you know, private equity play is they're more likely buying many businesses into a fund. This is just buying one. On the other one, the BCC, the business creation concept, right? That one, you have an idea that you want to take and grow and nurture, and you want to write this business plan around that idea to create a new business or a new entity, right? And that's so very different from the ETA. We're actually buying into it. And then to your point, your last point, I think you mentioned, hey, if you work for a company and my company is interested in bringing a project to UCLA, can I do that? Absolutely. That's been done in the past where people either work for a company or they own a company and they say, hey, I want this kind of great help and I want, my company to participate, or I want my company, the company I work for to participate, and I want to lead it and work on it. Absolutely. There is an application process to go through, but we've seen all of those cases.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Reza. And then I know I said iPad 3, but you have your hand up. If you want to introduce yourself, just name.
Yeah, it's Lewis. You can call me iPad 3. That's good too. But my question was on the specializations. So as an example, like for instance, real estate, obviously different people will have different specializations, but if I would have wanted to specialize in real estate, would that be a class or classes that you attend outside of the Saturdays, the biweekly or the monthly?
Well, yeah, so iPad 3, Lewis, right?
Yeah, close.
Yeah. Look, it could be a mix. The thing I'd say is you're going to go through your core. So you're going to get your foundation and your core, and the core are the same across all the programs, as I mentioned. And then you're going to go into your elective choices. And then it's really going to become a trade-off between, when the elective is offered, what time schedule that you want, and then and who's teaching it, and then the specialization that you want. So you're going to have to go through that. And in some cases, they will absolutely be, based on your schedule and offered on Saturday. In other cases, you may have to take it remotely. Yet in others, you may have to come in Thursday night for a specific class that you want. We can get you more details in a one-on-one, I'd say. But, you can, and if I look back to the specializations real quick on my own slide, I'm going to see where real estate landed on that. And it landed in one of those ones with the asterisks. That means it is absolutely available to you. It just means you may have to have some additional schedule flexibility to be able to make that happen. And what that means is you may have to come and take a Thursday night class from 4 to 7, as an example, as opposed to all on the weekends. Is that fair, Shannon?
Yeah, just to add to that. So the typical core schedule is the Friday evening and all day Saturday. So whether you're coming to campus every other weekend, we're on the quarter system. So it'd be 5 times in a quarter if you're biweekly, or 3 times if you're monthly. It's Friday night and all day Saturday. The electives are typically offered, the EMBA electives, which are those specializations. And also on our website, you can see the ones that are typically offered on Sunday following class weekends, as well as over the summer. And even in your last 2 quarters, it's primarily electives. So you definitely can start taking electives your second quarter, but you're going to find that, other times you might be on a slightly different schedule, like over the summer, once a month coming on Saturday and Sunday, because you don't have that Friday night, Saturday commitment. So looking on our website, which will send you a follow-up, we break down kind of each of the times you're on campus, but you will, if you're going to want to take a lot of electives, which we don't have additional cost for those, you're going to want to think about staying some Sundays for the first half of the day as well. But yeah, during a one-on-one is a great time for you to call in, and we can give you more specifics for the type of electives that are most interesting to you. Okay, so I am gonna, yeah, of course. There's a lot of information. And again, this is just to give you a taste. And then we hope you come to our Q&As, our follow-up Q&As that we offer once a week in our one-on-one. So Lucas, if you don't mind just holding that question, if you don't mind, but please feel free to put it in the Q&A and we'll get to it at the end too. I just want to make sure that you guys have time to meet our incredible alumni panelists, but Lucas, please put that in the chat and I'll get to you. So I'd like to introduce Debbie Quigley. She is also an alum of UCLA Anderson, and we're so fortunate to have her here as our Associate Director of Admissions as well. She has put together an incredible panel today for you, and we'll be moderating that as well as the Q&A after.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm so excited today to introduce some of our new graduates from the class of 2025. And as you see, our slide is showing all 4 panelists, but we're going to ask each one of them really to tell their story because as Jim said, the diversity of the cohort is really important in terms of building that transformative leadership capability. And again, actually everyone here today is coming from outside of LA, I believe. Maybe they're traveling, I'm not sure. But welcome, Michael, Anish, Emily, and Laura. And I would love to start with Michael. And really, I just want you to tell everyone here your story. So share a little bit about your personal professional background. Why did you decide to pursue the MBA? And why specifically did you choose the EMBA program at UCLA? And then I would love to hear some of your insights as a new graduate. What were your takeaways? And of course, I have millions of questions I'd like to ask you, but if there were some kind of key takeaways or transformative events that happened during, before, after, I would love to hear that too. So welcome, Michael.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Debbie. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for having me here. Debbie, you asked for a little bit of background. I apologize. Had a little bit of career, call it commitment phobia, so moved around a little bit. First real job at a college was 6 years of clinical psychology, where I specialized in forensic risk assessments on sexual and violent offenders. From there, I worked for a Fortune 100 with the largest property and casualty carrier in the world, where I was the national fraud investigator. So I got to play detective without being a cop. After that, got bit by the entrepreneurship bug and spent the last decade in tech, where I worked in everything from pre-seed through to post-IPO. I was director of Canada, the west half of the United States, Australia, and New Zealand for one company where I was responsible for a $120 million annual revenue target. Following that, really wanted to go back to school, come to UCLA, get my MBA, and make a pivot within my career. And I cannot credit UCLA enough because I think it fundamentally shifted how I think about things, the opportunities that presented themselves, and what I have available to me now. Getting an MBA was something that was kind of always on my bucket list. Most of the people in my network seem to have one. It always felt like a bit of a differentiator in terms of ability and upward professional mobility. So beyond just being an effective way to learn a bunch of stuff that I didn't know, it seemed like a great accelerator. I picked UCLA candidly, partly because of the geography. I was LA based at the time, and partly because it seemed to strike the right balance between academic rigor, the approachability of the staff, the professors, and honestly, the practical application within the program. It also didn't hurt that it's the #1 school. I don't know if you all know this, but UCLA was really the most Instagrammable campus in the United States. So certainly something very important to put there. how things have been impacted. I mean, my background was predominantly in go-to-market and sales. The amount of outreach and the sincere regard with which people look at me now for anything related to strategy, I think is fundamentally different from what I experienced before. I mean, I knew I would learn new skills and kind of build a network when I was doing an MBA, but I don't think I appreciated that it would change the way that I think in at this very deep level. I find myself now defaulting to these very well ingrained frameworks that you get taught, automatically kind of creating psychological safety with my team. And I know some people will probably roll their eyes on that, but that just means creating an environment where you are comfortable speaking your truth and other people are comfortable speaking their truth without fear. And I think that's incredibly important. I'm more aware of key gaps when I'm generating strategy and how to address them. It really has been incredible. So if I'm going to give a key takeaway here, I would say it doesn't really matter what you're looking for. If it's like to learn better finance skills, if it's to improve managerial abilities, to pivot careers, or just form a larger network, the thing that matters the most is just putting the effort in. And if you do that with authentic, purposeful intention, I guarantee you will get so much out of this program. I know I did.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. And I know we're going to circle back and have time for questions at the end. There are a lot of key insights, and I really appreciate you sharing those as well. Anish, let's hear from you next. Welcome.
Thank you. That's going to be a really hard one to follow up with Michael. A lot more than I can probably do. Hey, everyone. My name is Anish Gadwani. I currently work at Twitch, owned by Amazon. It's one of the largest live streaming platforms. Just graduated 3 months ago, which is wild to think. My background has been predominantly in tech. For those of you that are relatively familiar with tech at large, I started off working at the Apple Store, kind of retail after my undergrad. Moved over to ad tech itself, advertising, especially in the mobile gaming specific area, before transitioning over to the content creator realm. For me, I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so everything I was exposed to was just tech, which I think is great given the industries that I chose. The downside is that is effectively the only thing I was learning. I was learning acronyms, ways to get better, meeting people really predominantly just in tech. And so when I thought about growth and development, I reached a point in my career a couple of years ago where I peaked in terms of what I felt I could learn within my existing company. And the decision basically came down to, well, is it time to leave and go to another company, maybe even another industry, to continue to learn and grow? Or should I seek that out in a different way in a more conventional classroom? And I decided to opt for the latter, especially with the Anderson EMBA program allowing for the flexibility to be able to come to LA. It's a 1 hour flight, not too bad, but having that flexibility to come down, not on an every day or every weekend basis and still continue working and living the life that I had was a huge positive here. The other part of it is that Anderson does a really good job of balancing and picking people with very unique backgrounds coming from different industries, different skill sets. And so that was one of the biggest things that I wanted, where if for 10, 15 years of my career, it was all just tech, tech, tech. I want to learn and be challenged from people who are outside of tech, especially in ways that I never would have been exposed to in the day-to-day job. I think one of the best things is it was called out that we have world-class professors, which I think is very much true. I actually learn more from my classmates than my professors, and that's not a slight towards the professors. I think it's more the reality that these are your peers and the people that will be in your network that you will not only continue to learn and grow from, but they will challenge you in ways that you never thought you would be challenged, and vice versa. You're also able to give back to them, which is huge. We talk a lot about the Bruin Network. It continues to live on. Doesn't matter how much older you get. That's one of the biggest things that you're paying for here is access to that network. And you make, it sounds cliche to say, of course, but you make lifelong friends for sure. And I think, I don't know about you all, but the older that I've gotten, the harder it is to make friends. And so it's been a great opportunity to get access to a network of lifelong friends and people that you just genuinely get along with. Outside of that, I think for me, some of the biggest kind of advice I can give you is when you come to Anderson, it feels like this buffet. You want to do everything, you want a little bit of everything, and it can be very easy to overwhelm yourself. I definitely fell prey to that. And so, as you consider this program, as you think about what exactly do you want to gain from it, be open to the fact and the reality that your needs and what you're looking for will continue to evolve. I know so many people who came into the program that wanted to pivot into a different industry or career or wanted like a promotion at work. And over time, they realized actually that's not what I want anymore. I want something else instead. Or someone like me who just wanted to learn and grow. I left the program, and towards the end, I was a little worried that, hey, I haven't made any major professional moves. I'm still at my current job. I haven't necessarily applied around and interviewed. I feel like maybe I haven't leveraged this program in the best way I could have. And the reality was that I gained the kind of soft skills that allow me to take the time to figure out what is next for me and then bide that time and use it in a way so that I can make the right decision moving forward. So it's the kind of societal challenge of you look at your life so far, you look at where you're at, you worry that you should be somewhere else. And Anderson will help build the skill set and confidence in you to realize that you're not behind, you're exactly where you should be, and you're going to take your own time to get to where you want to get to. I can't stress how much the program has helped me in general. Even living outside of LA, for those that are not living in LA, you're going to be able to build a network, obviously within Southern California at large, but even meet people that are in other parts of the US, other parts of the world that are a great resource for you. The last thing I want to give a shout out for is the global immersions and effectively just the studying abroad. I did 4 countries. Did not expect I would be doing 4 countries when I joined the program. Can't recommend that enough. Ended up specializing in global management. Had a phenomenal experience just going to other countries and getting a better idea of how does businesses work in other cultures, with other languages. What makes sense and works in one country actually may not make sense and work in another. And that was a huge learning for me.
Thank you, Anish. You packed a lot into 22 months. You can definitely tell from your story here. And thank you for really highlighting the learning from your cohort. So not only the faculty, but the cohort as well, and getting a chance to be exposed to a lot of industries and functions that you weren't up north, and that was your focus, before you came in. So thank you. And I want to mention again that everyone on the panel here did travel in, and I'm sure there's questions about that as well. But thanks so much. And we'll get to some questions later. But for now, Emily, I would love you to join me and tell us your story. And are you coming from Vegas today?
No, I'm still in Vegas.
Okay.
Hello,
Well,
everyone.
welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly excited to be here to share my EMBA journey. So first of all, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Emily Ning. I live in Las Vegas. I work in the marketing and sales for the largest casino corporation in the world, and that is MGM Resort International. So my focus is on marketing strategy and business development within the casino division with a sales budget of $412 million this year. In fact, so next week marks my 14-year anniversary with the company. Before moving to Las Vegas, I live in Michigan, where I earned both my bachelor and master degree from Michigan State University. So why did I pursue another master degree and MBA at UCLA? So after more than a decade with my company, I had worked across different functions like HR, database marketing, casino operations, but always with the same industry. I began to feel like I had reached a ceiling, just like Anish felt how he with his career. I knew my business, I knew my people, and I started asking myself, like, what is next? So that's when I decided to go back to school to explore new perspectives and broaden my horizon. A big influence was my previous manager, who was in the EMBA class of 2024. So he shared with me how rigorous the curriculum is, how diverse and accomplished the classmates are, and how outstanding our faculty are. So, and he promised me the UCLA experience would be eye-opening, completely different from what I have seen in Las Vegas for the past 10 plus years. And he was right. Everything he said turns out to be true. However, what he didn't tell me was just how demanding the program would be. So twice a month classes, endless assignments and team projects and networking events. Social even become a job to me. May not sound like overwhelming at the first beginning, but balancing it out with a full-time job and being a mom was no small feat. So over the past 2 years, I made more than 60 trips between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. And I spent an average like 20 hours a week on schoolwork or school activities, whatever that school related, all while keep up my current responsibility at work and my home. So that experience stretched my capacity so much that I even joke with my senior leadership here, said if I can handle UCLA, I can handle being the CEO of my company. I mean, how much busier I could possibly be. Like, don't tell me about busy, okay? So, but beyond resilience, the biggest growth for me was in leadership. Just like what Dean Adam, just everything he said, like at work, I collaborate with professionals from the same industry. We share the same language, the same framework, the same way of getting things done. But at UCLA, I work with classmates from completely different industries with no management hierarchy to rely on. The real challenge becomes how do you push a project across the finish line without damaging the relationships? So that last lesson, learning to lead in a diverse team, has been one of the most transformative part of my MBA journey. And I proudly say I have accomplished that transformation. So now, just 2 months after graduation, I'm stepping into an exciting new chapter. I'm working towards a promotion into a new department which I have no previous experience. But what's most rewarding is that my leaders recognize my ability to learn, adapt, and grow. So they trust that I will be a strong contributor in any segment of the company. So that to me is a true value of UCLA EMBA. It gave me the confidence, the skills, and a perspective, not just to excel where I am, but to step into completely new and grow as a leader. So, and that could be all of you who joined today's call.
Thank you, Emily. I love that you lead with humor too, so I appreciate that, and how you really managed your time across so many responsibilities. I'm sure we can all learn a lot from that. Thank you so much. Laura, our fourth wonderful panelist, I would love to have you on now to tell us your story. And then we will follow up with questions. I know a lot of people probably have questions, but welcome, Laura. And thank you for coming, I believe, from Colorado today, unless you're traveling.
Oh, I am in Colorado. Okay, thank you for having me. And I will say, I think it's very hard to distill the EMBA experience into 5 minutes. So if anybody on this call has other questions after the panel, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I am happy to answer anything else because I feel like I'm still processing what I really got from the EMBA, and so I'm happy to share anything with you, privately as well. But so as Debbie said, I am in Colorado. I'm at the Colorado Restaurant Association, where I'm currently the COO and foundation president. I did commute in once a month for the 2 years of the program. My backstory, I have been in the restaurant and hospitality business pretty much my entire career, and I jumped around a lot. I was in training and development, fine dining, wine sales, customer service. I was a restaurant critic and journalist for several years. I was in PR and marketing, and then I landed at the Colorado Restaurant Association about 6 years ago. If you're not familiar with trade associations, we really act as the advocate for our industry at all levels of government for restaurants in the state of Colorado. And then we provide operational resources, education, workforce development, training, stuff like that for owners and operators. So I started there as a communication director about 6 months before COVID. I never want to live through another COVID, but it was a very professionally rewarding time for me. We became a comm shop during COVID, so it was an opportunity to very quickly advance through my organization into executive leadership. And then I became the president of the foundation in 2021. So I was in executive leadership when I applied to the program at Anderson. In spring of 2023, I had my second baby, and I was on maternity leave when I decided that that was the time to get an MBA. So I realize how insane that is, but I say that to you all so that you can hear emphatically that you can definitely do an MBA while you have young children. You just should make sure you've got a very supportive support network. My husband moved heaven and earth to take on the lion's share of the work. And I'm sure that would have been a point of conflict if he weren't potentially more invested in my MBA than I was. So just so you all know, it is possible. My kind of reasoning there, when I got into executive leadership, I was like, yes, this is it for me. I love being in charge. But I thought if I was going to continue to move up in organization size, and if I wanted to eventually get out of nonprofit, I didn't know, I wasn't ready to make a change when I applied to the program, but I thought, hey, I'm going to need an MBA at some point, or this is going to, it's going to get tricky. So I looked at UCLA for a few reasons. So coming in from out of state, I had already kind of eliminated the local programs in Colorado. I knew they weren't what I wanted. And part of that was for their offering, but also for the schedule. I know, I feel like several of us have touched on it, but the fact that UCLA had a monthly cohort that I didn't really even have to miss work for because classes started after my workday ended was huge when I was juggling kind of the responsibilities of executive leadership. So that was a major reason why I originally looked at UCLA. The prestige definitely didn't hurt. I was looking at top programs, and then I had gotten the feedback that the most important thing I was going to take from my MBA program was the network, and UCLA has just felt the most expansive. LA was kind of the only place I would have considered moving to when I started the program, and it just felt like there were UCLA grads everywhere. And then a couple of other things, and others have mentioned this as well. I really liked the global focus of UCLA, and then the industry diverse piece was really important to me. I didn't want to go somewhere where it was like super marketing or finance focused or super industry focused like tech. So I think it really, so those were all my reasons for choosing it. I actually think that undersells the program. I think it totally delivers on all of those things. I'll highlight a couple of ways. The industry diverse piece, the peer learning here is huge. Dean Adams talked about the study groups. This was a great way to practice a lot of those soft leadership skills. One of the single most valuable lessons and probably the first revelation I had in school was my first study group, where I worked the best actually with the person who on paper was the most different from me. That immediately became sort of translatable and sort of everything. I now actively seek out people who think differently from me, which was not something I did before going to Anderson. And then the global immersion piece, the global management center is just like my global immersion in Singapore was probably the single best class I took. In addition to kind of what Anish talked about, it was also just an opportunity to see leaders in action on a really global scale. So from a strategic thinking standpoint, I think that was huge. A couple of other things I would highlight that I actually got from the program that I think were really valuable. Number one is just tools to do my job better. I think coming in as I had thought about doing an MBA earlier in my career. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I waited until I was in kind of executive leadership, because literally everything I learned in the program was immediately applicable, or at least immediately testable. Like not everything may work for you, but being able to bring it back and apply it immediately, I think it was such a value add. And that includes kind of the technical skills from core classes, especially in areas where I was weak, like tech management and finance, the coaching and personalized insights. The hours of coaching, I feel like help process everything in real time, really personal guide to leadership development. And then Michael touched on the sharpened strategic thinking. That was huge. I think that came from the faculty, but also the cohort learning, the access to the leaders. That was big. So one thing to highlight out of the tools to do my job better, I was promoted to COO of the association at the beginning of this year. So in addition to the president of the foundation, I'm also now the COO of the association. I am 100% sure I would not have gotten that role without the Anderson MBA. Taking back the frameworks to my organization enabled me to build the case that role should exist in my organization and that person should be me. And then the other thing I think I would highlight, so I told you I went in thinking I just want to be in executive leadership, but at bigger and bigger companies. That's actually not where I ended at Anderson. The BCC program was hugely transformative for me. I had an idea in a completely different industry at the beginning of my time at Anderson and started working it through the kind of entrepreneurship training program. And just going through that process really built confidence for me about how to sort of kick the tires around an idea. How would you actually build a business? And so I am certain that my next step will not actually be to go to a larger organization as an executive. It will be to start my own business. So I think that entrepreneurship, there's a very structured sequence to that training, and that is probably the thing that will continue to pay dividends for me in the long run. I guess one other thing on the network I forgot to mention, 2 members of my original study team have actually now moved to Colorado. So I was right about the UCLA network being everywhere. That continues to expand. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Laura. First of all, congratulations on your additional position. You really can do it all. I'm so impressed by our alumni and by the panelists today, and I want to open it up to everyone for Q&A. I know we're at 1 o'clock, so we have a few more minutes, but thank you again for all of your insights and sharing your personal experiences. And they're all so different. I think that's really also what makes the program so special, is that everyone comes into it with a different why, and everyone probably leaves with a different outcome as well. And those may change along the way. And I think you all kind of highlighted that as well. Maybe you thought you would get something out of the program and you ended up getting that and more. So welcome back. And anyone raise your hand, or if I can't see your hand, please just come off mute and go ahead and ask a question.
Looks like Grazian.
Yes. Hi.
Yes. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you so much for talking about your experience. This is really great. I think I have one specific question. If you could redo the EMBA program, what would you do differently to maximize the experience? This could be answered by any of y'all, so we'd love to get your take.
That's a stumper. Anyone want to try?
I'm happy to start because
Okay.
I have an interesting perspective. Is Grazian?
Yes.
So hey, we just had orientation for the 2 programs, the fully employed program and the EMBA program, in the last 3 weeks. So what I did in prep for that is I went and interviewed about 15 alumni and asked that same question. If you can go back and restart your MBA, what would you whisper in your own ear? What words of wisdom? And I got a variety of responses, and I'm looking for head nods or shakes from my panel, if you don't mind. But one of the key things was the network. Make sure you solidify and grow your network and learn from your students, and don't only, if you're a military person or an engineer or a finance person, don't only work around those people. Do what Laura said, meet with people that are outside your normal working group, get to know what they do, get to know your network. That was the number 1 response, is the people, get to know them, expand your network. And I'll pause there.
Anyone else want to take that question?
I would say get to know people outside of the EMBA program as well. People who are going to be more junior than you, who can fill the roles in the organization that you're probably going to be leading in the near future, and get involved in whatever you can to expand the UCLA network as a whole.
So take advantage of outside the classroom. Marissa, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Marissa Davey. I am an automation manager for a global automation technology company. Laura, I actually live in Denver, Colorado, so we might be pretty close to each other. So thank you all for your time and going through and sharing your experiences. And I think, Laura, you touched on some of the ways you leveraged your EMBA after you graduated, but I'm curious if anyone else can share over the next year to 3 years after graduating, how did you leverage your new degree? How did you see that impact your trajectory in your career?
Manish, Emily, I'm happy to give a response if neither of you feels like it. I think the fundamental skills that you learn within the core program, and if you do a specialization, you inherently bring to any of the new roles, which naturally leads you down a different path. Specialized in finance, and it has absolutely made a dramatic impact in terms of the types of roles that I'm approached for by recruiters, by internal stakeholders, everybody like that. I don't know that I am an active driver here so much as I made a choice in the EMBA program and now I'm reaping the benefits. So I think it makes a bit of a longer impact than you might expect in terms of what you're actually bringing to the table for your learning.
Thank you. Joanna.
Hi, thank you everybody for a fabulous presentation. It was really insightful. So I don't know if any of you have an answer for this specific question, but for executives leading or transitioning leadership in a family-founded business or a family-run business, how does the EMBA program here support developing both strategic vision and change management skills that are needed to navigate these succession plans and while also scaling growth?
So I can take a stab at that. I think I don't think any of us are in that specific situation, although I know for sure at least one person in our class who was. But I think to answer it from the strategic side, I think it was Michael who touched on this. It's hard to understate how much of the strategic acumen you're going to get from this program, both on a hard skill side. So I think like strategy is both kind of a combination of hard and soft skills. So the hard skill side is really having the breadth of knowledge across multiple functions to be able to, to like know enough to be dangerous and kind of know what tools are at your disposal. And then having kind of that, 40,000 foot awareness to be able to sort of synthesize all that information and chart a way forward. And I mean, that is really what the whole program is about. So you're going to get deep dive into the hard skills. And then you're also, I think actually more through electives than anything else, you get like a real good chance to practice all of that in a variety of cases. I think one thing I didn't talk about in my part is like there's a lot of professors that use the case study method in this, which is a great way, I think, to put all of those skills into practice and just test drive how you would respond in a situation. So hopefully that would be that. I think and I will say also, I think what you get out of that too is you're practicing in so many different situations that then to take it back to your own specific situation, you'll have a lot of tools to do it.
Joanna, the Price Center for Entrepreneurship also hosts a family business conference every year. And I believe it's even multiple day, but it's an annual thing. So in terms of, the entrepreneurship piece of it, you're really supported as well. Thank you. Reza.
Hi.
Hi.
It's a kind of a little bit introduction plus my question for Michael. So what I hear now is that before you started the EMBA, Michael, you were okay. You were running some business with $150 million annually. So what would be your ideal place to work compared to before EMBA that now you think you are more lean toward it? So, and just we have very sharp students and the people graduated from different background because we are doing using AI for healthcare, for health management and predicting acute heart failure and different type of things. So what are the industries that would be more ideal for compared to before where you were, which industry you were and where do you want to go?
It's a great question. I previously worked in tech. Honestly, I would still probably work in tech, as Anish can probably tell you. There tends to be some advantages with respect to just the perks, the benefits, etc. That being said, I think it's more of a matter of outcomes that you can deliver as a result of what you now know and as a result of the network that you've built versus what you had available to you before. would like to think I was, somewhere in the middle when it comes to having a bit of a skill set to be able to do things in a reasonable fashion. But I think getting the MBA has taught me all the things that I didn't know. Maybe I'm not an expert in them, but at least I know now where to look, what frameworks to apply, and who to turn to. And moreover, I have people that I can text, call, ask for an introduction from to get to the people who really are the experts within a particular domain. So it's not so much that I was unhappy, but so more that I feel that I am far more capable of delivering much greater value.
And what industries are your ideal industries?
Right now, I'm working in tech for an agentic AI coding platform, but who knows where the future is going to take me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. And we have time for one more question, if anyone has a question. All right. Any last thoughts from the panel in terms of advice as people are considering entering the EMBA program at UCLA and or applying to the program?
I can take a stab at this one. If you're like me, you love to do as much research as possible, try to get as much information before making a decision. No one knows what they're doing. I say jokingly, but I say it also truthfully, right? We're all figuring it out as we go. There's no blueprint to planning out your future. And in fact, you should be open to knowing that it's fluid. It's going to continually change. Do the amount of research you want to do, but then take that leap of faith. And no matter what decision you end up making, as you look back, it's going to be the right decision for you. It all ends up working out in the end.
Thank you so much. Anyone else before I say goodbye? Well, listen, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. We do have a few events coming up, and we can switch out again. Thanks, panel. Before I unhighlight you, appreciate you being here and sharing all your insights. And as a reminder, we will send the recording out after our program today, and hopefully they'll all be open to connecting on LinkedIn or what have you if you have questions. And just wanted to share a couple quick things. We do have 3 rounds for our application here at the EMBA program. It's a rolling decision. The first round cutoff is December 1st, so you would basically have an answer potentially by January 31st. And the admissions team really is here to meet with you, and we have a lot of events coming up. And the next slide, please. You should see there we go. Okay. Events coming up so we can connect with you one-on-one in a phone call, Q&A. We have an on-campus event October 4th where we'll have another panel and an overview similar to today. We have class visits. If you want to talk to us one-on-one, we can chat about that as well. We also have on the 13th an application workshop. If you use this QR code, you actually will be directed to our events page on the website, and you can register for those events there. The admissions team is happy to stay on for a little while if you have any questions that we can answer. But again, I want to thank everyone for their time today. Thank you, Dean Adams. We really appreciate you tuning in from abroad, and have a great trip. We want to hear all about it. And thanks again to the panel for sharing all of your experiences as new alumni, and we hope to see you back soon. Thank you.